Welcome to Tell the Damn Story, the show that explores the many ways to navigate the successes and failures that aspiring and struggling writers face to make your journey that much easier.
Ta-da! Ladies and gentlemen, you're back. We thank you so much. Welcome to Tell the Damn Story. I'm Chris Ryan. I do that kind of stuff. He's Alex Simmons. He does a whole bunch of other stuff. And today we have that guy, Teal James Glenn, who holds entire planet of stories on his wide shoulders. We're going to talk about that today. Right,
Hey,
Alex?
Teel.
Hello.
So what are we doing here, Alex?
Oh, we get to interrogate, to question Teel.
I wasn't there. I don't know it. And if it's on tape, it's faked.
Yes, she lied. Okay, so now that we've got that out of the way, no, this is an actual, we had Teel on several episodes ago. That's for you folks to figure out which one, because it's worth listening to. We had Teel on, and he talked about a magnificent book that he had written, and a wonderful angle that he took a classic character and explored, and there it is. There's the book, Not Born of Woman. And Teel, so, hey, we're going to get a chance to do this, a little quick intro as to what that book is, but we're also going to travel today through the mind of Teal James Glenn and hear about what follows that particular experience and some of the other wonderful things that he's been working on. Stay tuned, folks, because aside from the thrills of horror and science fiction and mystery that he's mashed together into this wonderful literary experience, you're also going to find
what's in it?
like to be an old writer. Okay.
What's in it for you, ladies and gentlemen? Well, Alex, he's a worker. I'm a worker, but Teal James Glenn is a working writer. He writes, churns them out, gets them. God, he's been published a whole bunch of different places. Probably you have some publication that he's been in. So we're going to talk about how you can just keep going like the machine that Teal James Glenn is.
There you go. He's doing his robot now. Teel,
Stick around for that.
How have you been? What the heck's going on?
I've been very good. I just got back from Killer Nashville, which is a mystery convention. And
Oh, thank you, because I was thinking that's not a town I want to travel through.
You come from the Bronx, so you're used to it.
Oh, that's true. Okay.
And where that very book, Not Born of Woman, was up for a Silver Falchion for Best Paranormal Mystery.
Ooh, nice.
So I was a finalist. You did not make it, but I'm a finalist. And this next weekend, it's up for a Seamus Award for Best Private Eye Novel at BoucherCon.
Wow.
Where is BoucherCon? Where is it?
This year it's in New Orleans.
Ah,
It's
cool.
around. And honestly, had there been an equal drive time to both of them, I would have gone to New Orleans because
Sure.
I'm working on a book that takes place in New Orleans. But as I am only cargo, my partner, Carol, my writing partner, Carol, is the driver. That was her psychological limit for driving to Nashville, 2 8-hour days to get there. But it was an excellent convention. And I recently had spine surgery, the 7th operation, and I am now functional again, which I had not been for many years. I had to give up teaching and basically walking to the store and everything for a while. And nothing to do with my work. It was purely, it's arthritis and degeneration in the spine. So I now have metal in my back and can speak directly to Skynet if you have any problems. Just contact me.
But I got to tell you, Alex, I saw Teel at a reading recently, and for a long time, you're a little hunched over from the pain, but you're standing straighter, and it was magnificent to see that you're actually taller.
I'm back up to the height I probably was beforehand. Yeah, I had. You have never known me up till this point where I was not in pain.
Yes, that's
And
true.
I was generally pretty good at masking it, but actor boy.
And how are you feeling now?
I
Far less
feel
pain?
phenomenal. I feel phenomenal. What's really funny is that the only thing that bothered me at Killer Nashville was my knee, because it's going, you haven't walked on me for years. What's wrong with you? So
Back
my
to the
back is
gym.
great. So I feel incredibly blessed. And every day when I wake up, most people don't get a chance to do the thing that they love. I do. I still love it. I've been writing since I don't know, 12. And here I am, I'm 7 years old and I'm still writing. And my latest child, Adam Paradise, the Not Born of Woman guy, seems to have struck a note with people, which is great because it's all about connecting. So I really am blessed.
That's a pretty good segue into diving a little more into Adam Paradise so that people can get excited and maybe go out and buy that book and get ready for the sequel. So can you tell them a little bit about Adam?
Not Born of Woman takes place in 1939, 2 weeks after the Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden. And a Romany woman comes to a private investigator named Adam Paradise and asks him to get back a antique necklace which was entrusted to her, which comes down through the family because her brother pawned it to cover a gambling debt.
There's one in every family, damn it.
Yeah, Nico's that way. And he takes on the job, but his fee is a home cooked meal. And the reason for this is Adam is the name he has assumed now, but he is over 160 years old. He is the creature created by Dr. Frankenstein and spent most of that time in the Arctic after seeing his creator die. The premise in this is that, which Mary Shelley actually said, she had based it on a legend she heard. He's the legend for real. And he's come back to civilization to discover what his place in the world is and what it is to be human. And what better person than to be someone they come to with problems.
Yeah.
So he sets himself up as Adam Paradise. The whole book is told from his point of view. And as he searches for meaning while both dealing with a series killer in New York and tracking down the necklace.
Yes.
And when I wrote it, it was a standalone. I finished the book and thought, if I never write anything else, I'll be satisfied with this, which most writers, I don't think most writers can say that about most things they write. Usually I'm like, this would be the one I'd be happy to leave behind. But about 2 weeks later, he wouldn't get out of my head. And I started seeing the possibilities. And I was able to sell a 3-book deal to Crossroads Press on 3 chapters and an outline. And I'm in the middle of book 3 now, where he goes up against the Klan in New Orleans.
Ooh.
And the things he does with the jawbone of an alligator, I'm just saying.
And he's not picking his teeth with it, I can assure you.
No, not exactly. And fortunately or unfortunately, while I was at this conference, I came up with the next 3 books. So when I pitch this, I'm going to pitch the next 3 and see if they'll go for that.
Excellent. Best of luck with that. And I have to say, Not Born of Woman, one of my outstanding reads of that last year. The only other thing I would mention would be Damon Manx's accomplishment with the Ocean Axe, which was just a lot of fun. But it had been so long since I had turned pages the way I turned for Not Born of Woman. And congratulations on that. You'll always be a nominee from
I'll always be a finalist, and I'm incredibly glad. But that's just it. I'm up against Max Allan Collins for the shows. Snowball's chance in hell, my friends. But
no, I can make a phone call, but we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Okay.
People have
Let me just jump in here because Chris and I had tossed some questions back and forth that we wanted to make sure that we covered. And since you've now set up beautifully your experience with Adam Paradise and the book Not Born of Woman, just for the sake of the audience base here, what else did you have published in 2025?
I actually have to pull up the list.
Okay, excuse me when I pull up this crate here.
Yeah, I mean, so far I've sold 22 stories this year, but last year I sold 40.
Oh, okay. Then, heck, let's talk about last year. No.
Let's see. I had something in House of Long Shadows. I had my sword and sorcery novel, Battle for Stormrest, come out. I've had stuff in Crimson Quill Quarterly, Masked Rider Western, Pulp Adventures, number 47. 2 issues of House of Long Shadows. I had a reprint of my Renaissance Fair murder mystery, which is now titled Fair, Foul, and Fatal, about my friend's death.
I like that, Fair, Foul, and Fatal.
And it was I discovered my friend dead and dealt with the aftermath and then fictionalized it because in the real world we never caught his killer.
Oh.
So I got a chance I wanted the world to meet him. And this was my way. And I just had a story come out in Hollywood Kills, which is an anthology of mystery and crime stories set in Hollywood about the dark side of it. And it's about a stuntman who bad things happen. And Crossover magazine had a couple things in Black Cat Weekly this year. And I just the sequel to Born of Woman just came. It will be out in 2 weeks. I just got the cover and all of that. A Walking Shadow, dipping back into Shakespeare again for the title.
And this is just August, folks. Just let's
Well,
keep
the
in
thing
mind.
is, I don't have anything else to do. I don't have a family here. I got a daughter who's off on her own, and so I just sit in front of the computer and smack keys until something comes out like a monkey. And I will say I'm obsessed with finding markets. And a lot of people think I'm catched because I don't care if the market pays 8 cents a word or 2 cents a word, if it's the right market for the story, because I'm a big believer in second rights anyway. Last year, I probably of the 40, probably 15 of them were second prints, second printings. And I have words I want to get out. I'm 70, so how much legacy can I have left after this? And that bastard Asimov has hundreds of books. I got to catch up with him. So I don't, I honestly, I have to keep a list because I always feel like I haven't done enough. And I look at the list and go, oh, okay, I did do that this month because I just feel like I haven't done enough. I haven't made enough contacts. I'm not on enough platforms. And I don't know. It's one of those things where I just feel compelled to keep working. But
Okay, and let me just grab that for a second, Chris. Forgive me. 22 stories this year, and it's just coming up the end of August. 40 stories last year. Where are the ideas coming from, and how do you choose what you're going to write about?
I actually I make a point with short stories of every time I write a short story, I change genres for the next short story. So I don't end up repeating myself. And I have a lot of series characters. Once you have a series character, it's much easier to climb into a story because you know who your protagonist is. And I usually write a block of short stories and then go on to a novel because the novel owns me for how many ever many months. This particular one, the third book, Undiscovered Country, it's a bear. And I actually took a break at one point to write an Adam short story and a Western novella that I was asked to write because I needed to get away from it because I was intimidated by it. I'm dealing with some pretty heavy stuff and with the in the story, and I want to get it right.
Hmm.
The first book deals with prejudice against the Roma and the Nazis and against the Jews. And the second book deals with the Japanese and Chinese in America at that point, and the fact that the war is upcoming. And the third book will deal very much with race relations. And Adam gives me an outside perspective. Everyone talks about stay in your lane these days. And I have almost enough scars to qualify to be in Adam's lane. Um, and so it allows me to make a lot of observations on humanity, tribalism, prejudice. Adam is very well read, so he's quoting Proust and Kierkegaard and Thomas Aquinas, as well as Shakespeare and a bunch of other things, all the time as he makes observations on humanity. And this book also, there are scenes set in the first gay club in America, in New Orleans, and the Club Lafayette, and dealing with people's attitudes. And he gives me a platform to make comments within the context of entertainment. The thing for the first book was I wrote it because it was going to be a short story. All right. It was going to be a short story for Weird Tales. They were looking for occult detectives, and I wanted to come up with a new occult detective. I said, here's an idea. One for against monsters. It's already occult right there. And by the end of the second chapter, I was like, oh no, this is a novel. And I had no idea. I credit my writing group and Carol encouraging me to keep going because I did not know if it would sustain itself because I was literally straddling the line between very traditional PI. I tried to get that Raymond Chandler feel and voice into it, and noir, and occult stuff, and making social commentary. So I wasn't sure if it could work. And the second book is the same. I'm trying to keep it genre fluid so that you could say it's a detective novel, you could say it's a mystery, and the first one's a fair play mystery, or pretty damn close to it. Same thing with the second and the third as well. And I very much wanted to make it a book that would appeal to the readers. On the other hand, I also just follow Adam around because I'm a pantser. I have a theme and a feeling I want to go for, and I have some scenes in my mind that I want to get to, but I mostly just see where the characters go. I had no idea when I wrote the first one that Vendoma was going to become a character in the second, a strong character in the second as well. And for those out there, Vendoma is the woman who hires him, but she is a Romany and she is a hunchback. And that speaks to the whole Frankenstein and having the hunchback assistant. My grandmother was a hunchback. So I never viewed hunchbacks as aberrations or abnormal, or they were just people. And that's part of this too, is that I wanted to show that it's my tribute to my grandma.
So you can, through this particular creation, explore themes, not just literary themes, but social themes. And then you can also bring in elements from your personal life and personal experience that flavor where this goes.
Yes, absolutely. It is. I mentioned at some point to somebody that the Fair, Foul, and Fatal is close as I'll ever get to an autobiography, because it's about a fight choreographer who finds his friend's body and all that. This is the closest I will ever get to a spiritual autobiography. So much of his. I am one of those people who I feel like an outsider, and I don't understand Prejudice. I swear to God, I don't understand it. It makes no sense to me on any freaking level. I can understand liking somebody because they smell bad, or they're obnoxious to you, or they've been a bully. I don't understand disliking somebody because they're more melanated or less melanated than you. I don't understand it. I understand it in the context of history, because up until the Triangle Trade, there was there were no white people and there were no black people, because there were Africans all through Europe. But once they decided they needed the cheap labor, they had to stigmatize. And so they had to separate themselves, and Europeans had to make themselves a different thing. Up till then, you were either a Czech or a Belgian or an Englishman or a German. And after that, you were white. And so it's an invention. And I just don't understand it. And so my befuddlement is Adam's befuddlement. And
I think at some point discussing, not necessarily for this episode, because I know Chris has some things he wants to go over too, but I would love to at some point really just sit and talk about how you see Adam and how he sees the world, because that's a very fascinating experience in terms of understanding how we create characters and how those characters can be a guidepost through a particular storyline, or literally can be as befuddled and confused as we normally are, and watch how they navigate that particular experience. So
one of the things one
at
of the
some
things
point.
that's I think fairly unique for Adam is that he can see the essence of people that are dead. Ghosts eventually, but he sees color and shape. And so the whole world to him is moving through an underwater kelp jungle. And including, he can see shapes hovering around his limbs of the people they had been.
Ooh.
And he goes to the movies to see what normal humans see, because in a movie he can see what a room is like without those ghosts in it, and it allows him to, like in the Arctic, he could see the shapes of the crew of the ship that he'd been trapped on that had died there. He could see the shapes around him. When he comes back to civilization, it's everywhere, but in the wild places, it's not so much.
Hmm.
And he can also see if someone has killed somebody else, which makes him as a good private eye because he can look at someone and go, this guy's murdered somebody. Now, I don't know if he murdered the guy I'm after, but he's murdered somebody.
Yeah.
Because in my cosmology, the essence of people attaches to the violence that ended them. On the other hand, he can see golden shapes floating around people, the essence of people who've been helped by them. And I'm building the cosmology with each book so that, and my grand plan in a very weird, obtuse way is he's going to meet all of the universal monster, but in very different ways. It's not going to be the Gill Man. It's not going to be the Invisible Man. It's not going to be a werewolf. That's Henry Hull. But it's going to be something that feels like that. And that gives me because there's always going to be some occult element in the stories with
That's
him.
funny that you should mention Hull as opposed to Cheney. I caught that.
Cheney doesn't exist yet in this world.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm just bringing that
Yeah.
up for folks who are like film minded. Okay, he
Yes,
did
yes.
nothing there.
Particularly since all of that was created anyway for Hollywood, none of those are traditional creatures. None of those are legendary animals. They took them and then formulated their own. So he does let me see a lot of things. And again, I'm intimidated by my own third book because to me, it's important. And that's a trap because as soon as you start thinking your work is important, you become intimidated by it.
Yeah.
And you got to just tell the story. And that's what I've had to convince myself to just tell the story and it'll work itself out. I got a couple of sensitivity readers to make sure that I'm not being a complete jerk, but I don't think too many people object to Klanmen getting killed. So we'll see.
Chris, take it away.
Two questions. One, for the emerging writers among the audience, let's talk a little bit more about methods to get over yourself when you start thinking a piece is too important. And then, just in case I forget, Alex, my second is I want you to talk more about cosmology and in terms that someone might be able to apply that to their own work. So first, how do you get over yourself or not let something become too important that it intimidates?
I think the first thing is that if you set out to create art, you're already a pompous ass. I think probably the best quote here would be tell the damn story.
There you go.
Really is take your character, put him up a tree, throw rocks at him, figure out how to get him down out of the tree. That follow the characters where they go and stop trying to make it important. Now, I want to get all the facts right and I want to get all the emotions right, but I have to realize I want people to enjoy it. If it's not a pleasant read, if it's not an enjoyable read emotionally, then it just becomes a polemic. Now, Adam, by his very nature, prone to philosophizing and commenting on things, but I have to be very aware that I got to keep the story moving. And the
Having
philosophy,
read the first one, I will say to you, it is extremely readable.
Yes, thank you.
I love a page turner, and it is definitely a page turner. Not Born of Woman, ladies and gentlemen. Highly recommended. I'm sorry, you were saying.
That's all right. Your money will be in the mail. I think that to get over yourself, you just simply have to realize you're here to tell a story. The only reason Twilight Zone worked is that Rod Serling said, I want to talk about these important things, but I got to make it entertaining.
Yep.
And if you just do a lecture on race or power or sexuality, you lose everybody, including me. I wouldn't want to read that. But as the facts of something come into his head, it affects how he moves through the story. So I use that. At one point, he goes to a movie. He's always going to movies at some point through the story, but the movies have benefit because They either mirror the story that I'm writing or trigger something in him to he says, that the plot of that, maybe that's why this guy is doing this. I see that. And so we're seeing him learn in a common way, not just reading old manuscripts. We're seeing him learn through the medium of entertainment.
Yeah.
So it's, to me, that's really important.
I think you see Adam learn in every way you can learn. Yes, books, yes,
Yeah.
philosophers and writers, but also from the woman who comes to him with the
Yeah.
case. The
His
empathy,
interaction.
his neighbor, the guy in the luncheonette, and the younger guy in the luncheonette. To be open to others' experience is to learn, and to be human, which is I just love that Adam is very often the most human character in the whole story. So beautiful.
It's one of those things where I work very hard to just say, even Karloff, when he played the character, he said he was an innocent.
Mm.
And
Yes.
Adam he's not an innocent because he has guilt for the things he did in his infancy, the killings he did when he was emotionally a toddler.
Right.
Really. And that guilt runs through the whole series because it's always part of who he is. Part of this is about expiating himself. But he's a little naive. One of his traits is that no matter what's happening, if the bad guys are coming at him, they got axe handles or whatever, he'll always say, let's not do this. He doesn't like violence. He won't hold a gun. He doesn't like guns at all. And if there's another way, let's do that. And he always gives that choice. I had the short story I wrote with him in the beginning of the novel. When she comes to him, she says, my friend Leroy, the shoe shine guy, he said you helped his brother. And he said you're a good man. And Adam is thinking, yeah, I found the guy who did it. And normally my look is enough to get people to confess, but I had to break his arm in 3 places. And I wrote that short story.
Right.
And he's a much more hard-boiled character before she comes into his life. And people who come into his life affect him. And I was on a panel about series at Killer Nashville, and the question was, how much can you change a series and still keep the readers to the series? How much can your characters grow? How much can the formula change and before you lose your audience? And I may find that out because the second book is a different kind of book than the first. It's a little bit more action, a little bit less mystery. The third one, it starts out much calmer and then the mystery picks up. And where I want to go with the fourth of it, I don't want to have the same formula. Guy in the office, somebody comes to him, they have a case, they solve the case, and it goes on. Because now you're talking television where you have 30 people writing the same story. So we'll see how far I can push the limit of it if people will follow Adam along as he learns. Which brings me to the cosmology question you have.
Yes.
I know segues. I used to ride one around. And whenever you're building any world, you build the world.
And that is what cosmology is for those of you who may not know. It's the world building.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
You build the world. So even if it takes place today in our contemporary, you have to write the story for somebody 20 years from now who doesn't know what a turnstile is,
right,
or a token, which now they don't know what they are in Manhattan anymore.
Not anymore.
And so you have to build the world, but you build the world as your main characters see it. I know people who like you know that you're building a world in a fantasy story where you've got castles and dragons and whatever, and you have to build a reality into that fantasy. Here, I'm adding fantasy onto the reality. I make a point of the stories take place for Adam in a very specific time frame, in a specific day. I look up the weather for that day in 1939. I try to ground it in as many real facts as I can so that the fantastic things, the fact that he's 7'2" and his hands don't match, that he can see these things, is more acceptable because solidly in a real world. And in his case, he begins to see the bigger reality as the books progress. He begins to see he's not the only extra normal individual. He begins to see that there is what was called the realm between, that place where souls wait before they move on to whatever comes after. And he eventually is able to enter that and leave it. And I wanted to build a believable, for the lack of word, religious framework or spiritual framework, because his basic question is always, I am human or am I not? The third book begins with the phrase, can you really die if you were never really born?
Ooh.
And that is the overriding question in his existence. Am I really alive? Am I just a simulacrum? Am I just a thing that moves through this world? I don't even talk about the question of a soul, because he's not Catholic, he's not Buddhist, but he's read all of the material. And so it's more of an essence than a soul. He doesn't know if he's got it. He doesn't know. One thing, he doesn't know how long he's going to live. He's the only of his kind. He could simply stop breathing immediately.
This whole list of the he doesn't know,
Yeah,
they all are universal human questions.
exactly.
None of us know those things either.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
You have a little bit of the ship of Theseus vibe going in there as well. And I love that. And for folks, if you don't know what that's reference to, I don't want to beat the rhythm here. So I'll throw that into the comments when you listen to the show. I'll put in the definition of that. But I like that not only do you have it within the story, but if you're looking at, and I'm just taking a broad view, if I'm looking at the 3 books, you even said, how many changes can I apply to this character and still have a series and still be the same series? Yeah, so it's very interesting. Very interesting.
because it is, a character should grow. I love the Modesty Blaze books, for instance.
Those are your books.
Modesty
No,
Blaze
Modesty
by
Blaze.
Peter O'Donnell. It was.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Yes.
That's okay. I would
was thinking
love
the other
to
two characters you have.
I would love to claim it, but no. But they don't change.
Yeah.
They are who they are from essentially the first story. You find out more things about them and they experience stuff. They don't really change. And
The same could be said for Doc Savage or the Shadow.
absolutely. With Doc Savage, at least by the end of the series, he was making changes to it because he was monkeying with the formula. But yes, they're essentially always the same. And as opposed to a soap opera where people will change, but then it becomes cyclic and they go back. Now, Adam's always going to have the question, who am I? Why am I? That's always going to exist because he'll never satisfy it, because we never satisfy it. I don't know, when things are really bad here, I'm like, what the hell am I doing on this planet? I've been lucky enough, and I think you are too, Chris, is that I have a daughter. Because I have a daughter, I've had a purpose.
Yeah.
I have done something remarkable. I helped this incredible human being come into the world. I brought a dragon slayer into a world of dragons. Because my ex and I both debated for a while whether we should bring a kid into this world, because this world.
Yeah.
But the thought was always, if it's done in love and we do nothing but love, then that will be the change. But Adam can't have that. Adam is not going to have that, because it's just, he will always be an unnatural being with natural curiosity.
But it taps into that we are all alone part of the human psychology. And even if you have a family, Alex has 72 children, and no, he got two sons and a daughter, and but you still go through so much solo,
and
that's always great to explore.
My friend Carol helped her parents get through Alzheimer's. And her phrase is always, "You're in the end, you're always alone."
Yeah.
And I lived alone in my little word cave here for a while, and
the word cave.
Yeah, I call it the word cave. I've always named every apartment I've been in, but this is the word cave. And
Okay.
yeah, exactly. Turbines to speed. But I always feel that while we are alone, and Adam will always be alone, we can reach out. And that's the one thing that he begins to build is community.
Yeah.
And
And
that gives him, that connects him to the world. It's not just a job,
right.
each job.
It's also a reminder of why we do what we do. It's the stories that go out and find somebody who might be feeling really alone, and they make that connection, and they realize, nope, there's someone else who feels like that. And I have throughout my life found sustenance from that connection with, there's a ton of writers I've met, but a ton I've never met. And bam, that can keep people going. And
I would not have made it through my teenage years without Doc Savage and Tarzan and Modesty Blaze and Dashiell Hammett. And I
The
would,
original Justice League.
yeah, I wouldn't have made it through the divorce if not for Lone Wolf and Cub.
yeah,
For me, one of my goals has always been to be that thing, that hope for that 15-year-old. My sorcery stories, my Altiva stories are intended for that, even though apparently nobody wants them. But they're about that character, the main character, that growing into himself and trying to do good. And Adam is just I on some level I fear that this might be my Sherlock Holmes because I can't imagine doing anything better than this.
wow.
And I can't imagine doing a character that reaches into me as much as this. And that's why I wrote the Western because I wanted to see if I could still just do a straight up shoot 'em up, run around story, which I
Right.
can. I've got the mechanics of it. But to be able to reach deeper makes me feel like everything else has been set up for
Right.
this. And from my mouth to the God's ears, that it becomes my Sherlock Holmes. That so I get my mansion, but more that it outlasts me, and that it reaches
Teal
out to
Palace.
other people and gives them hope.
Yep. Now, I just want to clean something up. Not Born of Woman is a lot of things, but it's not a Western. Could you tell
No.
everybody what your Westerns are?
Oh, this I wrote this one Western. There was a writer who wanted to do Sabata, and he obviously couldn't get the rights to do Sabata. So he created his own character, Major Sabbath, Ricky Lay. He's passed away, but
Oh,
one of my publishers was doing an anthology with the character and
right.
had a couple of stories and needed one more story. And he knew I could do Westerns.
Right.
Uh, and so he contacted me. Here's my mansion. This is the,
There it is.
there he is. That's the Hound of the
Like I said, Teal
Bastards.
Palace. Yeah, okay.
Yes. And he reached out to me and said, could you do this? And I was like, I was at a point with the story where he was just about to get on the train to go to New Orleans. And so I needed to do more research about New Orleans. And I said, you know what? It's exactly the break I need.
Cool.
And so I spent 2 weeks and I wrote the novella and Blood and Regrets. And it's an Italian Western as a Western,
Anyway,
with outrageous guns and stupid stuff. But it was just a lot of fun to
a
write.
lot of fun.
Henry Fonda and Clint Eastwood. Yes.
Yeah, really,
Now,
very much.
now there's one other cowboy that you wrote, a cowboy in Carpathia, which you won
Yes.
some awards. So let's
Yes.
just make sure people know about that one as
Cowboy
well.
in Carpathia, which is the premise of that and the series that followed, was what if Robert E. Howard, the man who created Conan, did not commit suicide? The story opens with him in the car getting ready to do it, and he makes the decision that a barbarian would never give up life willingly and takes inheritance from his mother and first comes to New York and then goes to England where he meets people and has adventures and eventually fights Dracula in the Carpathians. And good news is that I have a publisher. The publisher who had that book has folded, and I have a new publisher who's going to reissue the book, expanded. I've expanded the book.
Of course you have.
Won the Pulp Factory Award for Best Novel, and I have my award right here.
There it
Because,
is.
You pulled it right out of the earth. That's amazing.
and Bob Howard is he's a composite. He's a character I think that Howard kind of wanted to be. He wears a Stetson and cowboy boots, which Howard never actually did. But he is from Texas, and it gave me an excuse to write a lot of poetry in his style, because Howard was quite a poet, although his stuff is still in copyright, so I couldn't use his stuff. And I've written 3 books in the series so far, and with this new publisher, I want to expand at least the second book as well to full length, because it was only a novella. And it was my love letter to the pulps, because my background is very pulpy, which is it's funny. My writing group keeps going. Every time I read another section of the Paradise stories, they go, "You're moving away from pulp here. It's good." So I'm happy with that. But the thing is, I will never lose the pulp imperative of it has to be exciting. But it is definitely moving a little bit more literary. And please,
That's
folks,
okay.
literary in this case does not mean slow
Small L.
name.
Small L. And just since you were talking about you held Bob Howard in high esteem and therefore you have a tribute to him, I thought I would share this. I thought Alex might get a kick out of this. Let's see if I can get it.
Oh,
There.
yes. Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah,
No, can we get it? Nope, we're going the
Nope,
wrong
we
way.
can't because of the white.
it's
No,
very high
no
contrast,
offense.
but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
There he is. There he
Yeah, here
is.
we go.
That is Alistar, who is one of the in my Soul Scream. He's a featured character in backup stories in Soul Scream Anthology, and he is modeled after and inspired by none other than Teal James Glenn. There you
Thank
go.
you. I do have the smell of death about me.
Yeah,
Oh, stop.
behave. Speaking of behaving, we have to come to a little bit of a wind up here, and I wanted to throw one more question at you, which I think really applies to a lot of what we've done here today or what you've shared with us. You've had such a long and active career, focusing primarily on your writing. You've done 1,001 other things, but on your writing, and you've put out so much material and in several different genres. And you've also mentioned that you've had some challenges in certain experiences writing certain stories. Question: looking back at all of this, what would you say is probably the greatest lesson that you've learned either about writing or about yourself as a writer that you still hold in close to your heart, or you still feel, yeah, this is probably a major lesson that I've learned, something that I'm now going to hold on to or utilize or share?
Persistence. If you believe in the material, keep going. Not Born of Woman was turned down 29 times. Two of them were a literary agents who loved the pitch and then turned the book down.
Mm.
In fact, one of them even said, how do you have a right to write Roma? And I'm like, to which I said, A, I know Roma, and B, I stunt coordinate a Roma movie, Lacedromo to you. That's not a curse, it means good journey.
Yes.
But that's the thing, is just persistence. I try really hard not to take rejections personally. Even if I get a rejection or an editorial comment, which I don't like, I snorf and growl for a little bit. And then I sit down and say, okay, what is the benefit of what they said here? Do I have too many dialogue tags? Is it fuzzy storytelling? I love it when an editor says to me, it's a little weak in the middle. Could you strengthen it? Like,
Oh, yeah.
okay, it works. Okay, thank you. As opposed to just, I don't want it or I do want it. So just persistence, just believe in your material. The other thing is never write to trends. Write what your heart calls you to write, which I want to make a comment here about, because I consider what you guys are doing here very much, it's a privilege. But I want to talk about the fact that Chris wrote this phenomenal collection of poems in a story through separate poems. And I remember when he was going, I got this idea, but I just don't know. And it's a phenomenal book. It's been a privilege. It is scary and touching and disturbing, and has all of the things that if you were setting out to create art, you might end up with. But he just decided to write a story. And that story through these poems, I think, is a work of art. he did what I've done, is just said, I have this feeling and I want to go with it. And I don't know if it's going to sell it to anybody or anybody's going to care, but I care.
Yep.
And I think that's phenomenal.
Thank you very much. That's really generous of you. And I know Alex, he gives me a lot of encouragement with that piece as well.
It's
So
a
thank
great
you.
piece of work, Teal.
It really
agree
is.
with you
I mean, it is something reaching beyond what you've done before. And you were brave enough to go out on the thin ice and try it, just like I was with Paradise. And
There's a thin line between bravery and ignorance, and
you know what? Ignorance
I
can
just
be bliss.
followed what I mean. It, like you said, it wouldn't leave me alone, so I just kept going.
That's how you know you're supposed to write it.
Yeah, yeah.
When a character, a story, or a theme just keeps coming into your heart, even if there's no market for it, that just means there's no market for it now. There could be a market for it in a year or 5 years or whatever. Thornbirds was rejected 48 times. Harry Potter was rejected. And if you believe in the material, I'm incredibly blessed that I've been able to, at least up until my back went out, to like support my writing habit with other things. And now I'm old enough that I keep my costs down and I can survive on the Social Security and my pension. But I still don't want to. I would like to make actual money. That would be nice. Get an actual agent to
Get the
get me.
press ready. Yeah.
But I'm not going to stop. I can't. If I don't write for 3 or 4 days, I get hinky. I get like I don't know if it's Puritan guilt but it's like, why are you wasting your time? You have to be doing things that matter. And
So you just named two things that you learned. A, persistence, but also that you must do what you do because you must. It
yeah,
is part of who you are. Yeah.
yeah. I don't know an actor who stays with the business who doesn't feel compelled
Oh
to
yeah.
keep doing it. And that's why they do showcases that don't pay money and out of town tryouts, because the experience of it is there. If you don't enjoy the journey, you may never get to the end of it. So enjoy every moment of the journey. I feel incredibly blessed that I live in a society, however the rest of it may be burning down around me, where I have this electronic device. I can write words, it can get out to people. The best thing that ever happened to me is I had a writer come up to me at a conference and say that my Maxi Moxie series, which is a
That's
light
wonderful.
comedy series, helped get them through cancer therapy.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And I'm like, I cried because if I can help you get through a boring day, I feel successful. If I can help you get through chemo, I feel like a god. And
That's fantastic.
many years ago asked Gil Kane where comic book writers and artists stood in the scheme of things. And Gil Kane's answer was, we are the direct descendants of Homer. We create the new myths. And I have held that to me because the myths are what kept me going. And it's an incredible privilege to share.
I'm going to share one quick story because we're almost out of time. So I'll abbreviate it. There was a writer that I met, a father of a young woman who went into the military and was overseas not that many years ago in a war zone. And the father was feeling, my daughter's over there and I don't know what's happening with her. I'm worried about her. And he went to pick up a copy of Blackjack, Blood and Honor to read. It was one he had bought years before. And he thought, I'll just read that. It'll make me feel a little bit better. And he couldn't find it. And he searched the house and he went, oh my God, we've moved a few times. I must have lost it. It's terrible. A week or so goes by. He's communicating with his daughter. And at some point he brings it up. He says, and I was looking for the copy of Blackjack. And she goes, Dad, I've got it. He goes, what? She says, yeah, you used to read that to me all the time. And when I was being deployed, I wanted to take something with me. So I took that.
Wow.
And I went, holy,
That's great.
I almost lost it. I'm standing there. I could not think of a single thing to say, except that something that I had written not only affected one person, but that his child, growing up hearing some of it, in that scenario, chose to take that with her. And
That's beautiful. That's
it's just so
absolutely.
we don't know. We don't know
Yeah.
how what we do is affecting others out there. But when we're doing it because of that feeling that you guys have been talking about, we've satisfied a certain part of ourselves, and then we've given it to the rest of the world to do whatever it does. And it's wonderful to know from time to time we find out, wow, it
Yeah.
did help somebody. It did make a difference.
Yeah. Now we're blessed to be able to, the storytellers of old were believed to be touched in direct contact with the gods. And I believe that. There's certainly parts of paradise that I don't know where they came from in me.
Well,
Obviously they did. I consider it a gift. And
the line's still open.
yeah.
That's what it is. The line is still open. Chris, anything you want to say to Teel before
I just want to say you're always an inspiration, and it's always an honor to have you on here. Ladies and gentlemen,
call you guys friends.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, go and get yourself a copy of Not Born of Woman. You can get it as an ebook. You can get it as print. It's well worth your time. It's a great read. We have Labor Day weekend, and you're like, what am I going to read? I'm ready.
Yes, that one, and the other book. Pick it up, Chris. Pick it up. Pick it up. You get an endorsement from Teel. So there you go. The other one.
Endorsed by Teal James Glenn, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. I would not read it with the lights. I would not read it at night unless your doors are locked. But I would read it because it's the poetry of menace.
Yeah. Ooh, nice choice. Nice choice.
You could always get some blackjack, ladies and gentlemen. Alex Simmons.
Yeah.
There we go. Little something for everybody this holiday weekend.
You sure you didn't work in a carnival, Chris?
No. I was a public school teacher. Same thing.
Looky. Again, Teel, you'll be back. You'll definitely be back. Oh, and again, congratulations on being able to stand tall and walk tall again. Yeah.
Like I said, I'm a winner, and I'm blessed. I'm blessed.
Tell you what, you look about 10, 15 years younger, bro.
Yeah, I feel it. I'm down 45 pounds since the operation.
Oh, you trimmed your beard?
Yeah. I actually just washed my hair.
Oh, there you go.
You would know that, Chris.
Tell the damn story.
Oh my gosh.
Go out there, tell your own damn story.
and don't forget to hit and subscribe. And what were you going to say, Teel, quickly?
Like I said, a picture of you, Chris, in the comic book that you put up today. Oh my God, what a baby.
Oh yeah, it's me, Alex, and Jamal Eigel.
Oh my God.
On Throwback Thursdays, I've been saying, that time I was this, that time I was that. Yeah, I was really young. But the kids, I had my kids already, but yeah. Yeah, it's on Facebook. You can see what I look like with hair. All right.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
You're welcome, buddy.
Always fun. Take care, everyone. Peace.